Senator McKenzie.
Victorians will face a choice. They can choose to re-elect a Napthine coalition government, which will implement the biggest modernisation plan in Victoria's history, or they can choose to elect an Andrews Labor government, which will roll out the most militant pro-union agenda in our state's history. The Hayden Royal Commission has recently outed Dan's dirty half-dozen, 6 Victorian Labor candidates who are beneficiaries of dirty union slush funds. Labor's member for Western Metropolitan Region, Caesar Melham, was found to have set up a clandestine slush fund, Industry 2020, that ripped off honest AWU members and bankrolled his political advancement, the careers of his cronies and a lifestyle of luxury. According to The Age, Mr Melham squandered $40,000 on, and I quote, "swish international and local restaurants and hotels and on alcohol, electronics and cigars." Honest Victorian AWU members could only dream of the luxuries enjoyed by Mr Melham at their expense. On the 14th of May 2013, Industry 2020 made a $20,000 donation to an association operated by Marlene Kirus, the Labor member for Koroit, and Kirsten Sala, a Labor candidate for Western Metropolitan Region. On the 16th of December 2009, a $1,550 cash cheque was written out to a fundraising event for Natalie Hutchins, an ALP candidate for Keilor. Ms Hutchins now sits on Daniel Andrews' front bench as, disturbingly, the Shadow Minister for Industrial Relations. And yet, in the face of such damning evidence, Mr Andrews continues to support Mr Melham, who is demonstrably unfit to represent the interests of workers, let alone the Victorian people. But Mr Melham is not alone. It has been recently revealed that Labor's Shadow Attorney-General, Martin Pakula, received at least $15,622 from a secret slush fund, IR21, at a significant cost to honest members of the NUW. In 2006, IR21 paid Mr Pakula's campaign $10,762, and on the 11th of April 2013, it made a $1,500 donation to Mr Pakula's Lyndhurst SEC. When questioned about these shady transactions, Mr Pakula reached straight for the union playbook and claimed that, and I quote, "any donation made to me by IR21 or anyone else were properly disclosed." End quote. The problem is that a $3,400 donation made to his campaign on the 9th of August 2006 was not, in fact, disclosed. Counsel assisting notes, and I quote, "there is no explanation as to why this amount was not recorded in the donation part of the general ledger for 2007. Contrary to his dishonest claims, Mr Pakula kept the 28,000 Victorian NUW members in the dark. And to quote counsel assisting, there does not appear to have been any disclosure, let alone adequate disclosure, to NUW members of the existence and function of IR21. So much for Mr Pakula's full disclosure. Why doesn't Mr Pakula ask the NUW members in his contested seat of Keysborough what they think about his secret slush fund? These workers are paid an hourly rate of just over $21, barely $3 above the minimum wage. But it wasn't just Mr Pakula who profited at the expense of honest NUW members. In 2010, a $2,000 donation was made to the Labor member for Western Victoria, Yala Pulford, for a luncheon that no one actually attended. And in April 2010, Ms Carus was again the beneficiary of dirty slush fund money, with her own Ab Hinc receiving $4,800 from IR21. If Mr Pakula or Mr Melham were willing to rip off their own union members, what will they be willing to do to the Victorian electorate? And a further 4 candidates have all benefited from these dirty slush funds. If Dan's dirty half-dozen had any political integrity, they would return them to the sources from which they were first taken. But how can we forget the favourite union of Mr Andrews and Labor's Shadow Planning Minister Brian T, the CFMEU? Counsel assisting has found that the CFMEU engaged in secretly stealing private information of its members, boycotts, cartels, blackmail, extortion and even death threats. The CFMEU, he writes, displays a deliberate and disturbing disregard for the rule of law. Throughout the Royal Commission, the CFMEU has waged a campaign of smearing whistleblowers who have exposed wrongdoing within the union. According to Council Assisting, there is a pervasive and unhealthy culture within the CFMEU under which those who speak about union wrongdoing are vilified by the union and their reputations become the subject of baseless slurs. The CFMEU has such little regard for the law that it even impugns the professionalism and propriety of a senior police commissioner. When the Assistant Commissioner for Victoria Police, Stephen Fontana, gave detailed evidence of specific links between organised crime and union officials, the CFMEU outrageously accused him of engaging in cultural warfare and being part of the problem. On the 30th of October, Victorian Secretary John Sector smeared Assistant Commissioner Fontana on his Twitter account. And Mr Acting Deputy President, I would like to table the following document, which is a copy of the Twitter by John Sector.
As leave granted. Sorry, Senator McKeown.
If we could have a copy of the document to have a look at, which is the normal practice before a senator seeks to table it. Thank you.
Is leave granted? There being no objection, leave is granted.
Thank you. And on the tweet, he smeared Assistant Commissioner Fontana on the Twitter account as, and I quote, Abbott and Napthine's #1 soldier. And thank you for the Senate allowing me to table that tweet. One would think that the union's crude attack on the Assistant Commissioner should be reason enough for any decent leader or aspirant to be shamed into taking action. Given the CFMEU's record of retribution against courageous whistleblowers, I'm very concerned at what an Andrews ALP government may have in store for the Assistant Commissioner at the behest of his favourite union. Why does Mr Andrews continue to support this corrupt union? Is it because the CFMEU is the second largest union donor to Labor? Or is it because Mr Andrews relies on its factional support to remain in power? At the 2013 State Labor Conference, Mr Andrews shared centre stage with Mr Sector and his lackey, Sean Reardon. This is the same John Sector who was described as a good man by Mick Gatto. And this is the same Sean Reardon who marched alongside Comanchero Sergeant-at-Arms Norm Meyer. A vote for the Labor Party is a vote for the CFMEU, the Carlton crew and the Comancheros, who would love nothing more than to have a weak Labor government giving them free rein over Victorian building sites. Victorian Labor has no moral compass when it comes to union rorts, rackets and rip-offs, even when they extend to clear criminal behaviour. Once upon a time, Labor leaders knew where to draw the line. John Cain got a lot of things wrong as Premier, but he had the political integrity to deregister the BLF when it clearly involved corrupt behaviour. Mr Cain famously said that he removed this rogue organisation from the Victorian industrial scene, and we thank him. But Mr Andrews would give this union the keys to #1 Treasury Place. If Dan really is the man, he needs to man up. No glossy photo shoot can whitewash the dirty stain of union slush funds from him. And no new haircut or pair of new hipster glasses can distract Victorians from Dan's dirty half-dozen.
Thank you, Senator McKenzie.